on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Great Black Speakers Podcast, where we connect through conversation. I am your host, Lawrence Watkins. I am the founder and CEO of Great Black Speakers Bureau. I'm also the president and chief operating officer of the Black Business School. Today, we have a very special guest. We're here with Joy Pittman. Joy is the founder and CEO of JVP Legacy. And JVP Legacy is a HR consulting firm that focuses on people and processes. They aim to support Black female entrepreneurs to scale their businesses. And you can find out more about her and her company at JV as in Victor, P as in, I don't know, I've been reading Plessy versus Ferguson lately. I don't know, from Black history. Peter, there we go, legacy.com. So jvplegacy.com. That shows you where my mindset, y'all. I've been doing so much Black history research, and one of the most recent things I was reading was about Plessy versus Ferguson, the famous court case. But anyway, we're talking about something different. We're talking about HR and teams, and we're talking about how Joy helps Black female entrepreneurs to scale their businesses through the use of teams. So Joy, how are you doing today?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm doing excellent, So can you talk a little bit more about what is JVP Legacy and how did you get to this point in your career of running this business?
So JVP is a human resources consulting firm that specializes in talent management and leadership development. In layman's terms, as we said earlier, it's people and process, and the goal really is to help organizations specifically, or while I can help most organizations, I find my greatest joy, no pun intended, in supporting businesses owned by Black women. And so ideally, what we aim to do is to help them build teams that stick. So there's a lot that happens in the recruiting space, a lot of cycling that happens. And oftentimes we're bringing in people and cycling them through. And so the idea is to help them really build teams right way the first time, right? Get those teams running and get them moving forward, and also supporting them. Many of them, I'm not gonna say many, but some of them have never led a team before, never really been a manager before, and their businesses are growing. So really helping them develop those skills that really make them effective leaders in their businesses.
Now, were you in HR consulting before you branched out on your own, or what was your background before you got into this entrepreneurial venture?
So I'm a 15-year HR professional. I've been working in the field of HR for quite a number of years. I actually started out doing benefits management work, and that's kind of where I connected with my passion for people. So I was initially on track to do something totally different. I was in school getting my business degree and started working in an HR department in Starrett City in Brooklyn. I had a really, really good experience there. I had a manager at that time, his name was Vernon Douglas, who gave me a lot of opportunity to learn a lot in a short amount of time. And so I got the opportunity to work with in the benefit space. And in that space, I really got to connect with the importance of HR as it relates to people. And I know that people look at HR a lot as the hiring and firing center, the do's and don't place, kind of like the workplace principal's office. But what I was able to actually see is how HR could be impactful in really helping employees show up, feel supported by the organization. And I was doing a lot of that work in supporting sick employees, but started to see how that could actually spill out further into the organization. And so that is actually where my start happened in HR. Since that start, I've run 2 HR departments, including HR and payroll, talent management. We've done training and development, HR analytics. I've worked in the non-for-profit and the for-profit sectors. And so I've slightly run the gambit. I also worked for the city of New York at one time for NYCHA. So I've kind of done city, I've done private, and I've done non-for-profit. What segued me here, and I want to make sure I'm answering all the questions, is that actually my stint in corporate reinforced for me that, so I thought working in non-for-profit, that would be my secret sauce, right? So I was in private industry, went to nonprofit because I wanted to help people. Got to nonprofit and was like, wait a minute, this is not what I thought it was going to be. Okay, so I'll go to corporate and chase the money. Got to corporate chasing the money. This is not really it either. All of them had different issues, but I think what resonated the most for me and echoed actually in my nonprofit experience is that as a woman of color in leadership, And as the HR person in many of those roles, I didn't have anybody really to go to with the issues that were impacting me. I was doing a lot of advocacy, but also I got to have a lot of conversation with Black female leaders specifically. And many of them had hit these numbers in their organizations. The last organization I was with was an $18 billion financial rating organization. So it was a pretty large organization. And the people there who were making $500,000, 300, 400,000 women, Black women, were still feeling like they didn't have a voice in the organization, still kind of feeling these same things. And so I started looking at, when I started thinking about, I need to segue out of this, because initially I wanted to be the HR person for those women, to tell them what I couldn't tell them as an employee of the company, the things that might cost me my own job. So I wanted that security. When I started doing more research around Black women exiting the workplace, I started realizing we are exiting in droves. But what also is happening, and 3 times more likely than other groups to exit their jobs, all of us are not exiting because we weren't getting paid well. Some of us are leaving good jobs and lucrative jobs to go into entrepreneurship. But then the numbers on that side said we still wasn't getting paid. We still weren't getting supported. So we were leaving one experience to go into the same experience now as the CEOs of our own companies. And so I started thinking about how transferable the skills that I had developed as a leadership development person, as somebody that was helping frame organizational culture and talent management, et cetera, in thinking about how I could be a support for women who were now leading in organizations when they had not been developed as leaders in the organizations they left, or at another time in their life. So how that skill set could be helpful, but then also how I could help them think about monetizing and scaling quicker when they reach those benchmarks, so that they weren't overworked and underpaid, right, as their own bosses, but to help them get to those dollars by building teams, have that work-life balance that you were chasing when you left, that 9-to-5 space, to create that by building effective teams and getting it right sooner in the process.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, and I'm over here just typing a lot of just different questions because it's so interesting in terms of what you're talking about. So now, did you know you always want? I want to get back to this concept though in a second, in terms of women leaving the workplace and going to a similar situation when they reach entrepreneurship, and what that may have taught you, I guess, about the world and about your role in the world. I think you did a good job. I just kind of want you to expand upon that. But did you always know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur, or is that something that just kind of fell out of the sky?
I knew I wanted to do something impactful. I remember years ago, I actually had in my mind this vision of this fully woman-owned consulting firm, and we all were non-traditional looking. So when I say that, it wasn't the slick back ponytail that we were taught to do to like hide our natural hair, and the little pearl earrings. It was really everybody getting to own themselves. I actually had that like kind of thing dreaming in my mind as a teenager, but I don't know that I saw it then as entrepreneurship. I don't. I think it was just kind of like, oh, I'm gonna be somebody's boss one day, but I probably thought about it still within the context of employment. I think it's important to underscore that context of employment, because I came from 2-parent home, hardworking people. I don't really have a struggle story as far as growing up. What I will say though is that my dad was a proponent about being a good employee. So my dad was served in the military, served the city of New York for over 30 years. And actually my dad got sick in 2009, he had cancer. My dad actually was going to work in the morning and doing chemo in the afternoon. Like, he was a worker, right? So I remember always being taught about a work ethic and how to be a good employee, but we didn't really have a lot of conversations around being your own boss. And I do think that it was this hybrid of, there was something that I knew that I wanted to do. I knew that a lot of times in the organizations I was with, I felt like I was shrinking all the time. I felt like I was trying to do the stuff that I wanted to highlight, some of the innovation that I wanted to bring up. Nobody wanted that. They just wanted me to do the things that were on my job description or other things, but not really transformative work. But I don't know that in the nurture that I got, and I got really great nurture, like my parents did a really amazing job, but I don't think that was on their minds. And so it just wasn't the conversation. And so I do remember, even when I decided to transition into entrepreneurship, my dad had passed away, but I remember the hardest conversation that I was gearing myself up for was telling my mother that, I got this 6-figure job, I'm doing well, degrees on deck, all this stuff, and I'm about to quit this to go do something else. And I remember like the anxiety around that conversation. I remember actually I didn't even tell people I left my job for a long time because of the job was the thing, right? And when I told her, to my shock, actually, she just was like, okay, I know in her mind, she was like, what? But I know that she wanted to kind of nurture what I was trying to do. And so she's like, well, what's the plan? And so we've just been working the plan since that time. But, to answer the question, yes, it was on my mind, but I just know that we don't talk about it enough. We talk about it now more, but it just really wasn't the conversation that we were having, even in the good homes, right? We weren't having that conversation when I was growing up.
Yeah. So, and when was that conversation that you had with your mother about you quitting your job?
Literally, I'm tracking that 9 months now. Like I
Oh,
literally
so
was like,
9 months. So it was in 2019 then. So December 2019. Oh, okay. So this wasn't a long time ago. This was like very recent.
no, as a
Yeah,
whole,
yeah.
yeah, I was stressed out about telling my mother I was leaving my job.
Right.
Yeah.
And are you in your 30s or 40s or
I am, so I'm
you're about to say
38.
you're 38. Okay.
I'm approaching 40 quickly.
Yeah, yeah. So got you. So even at age 38, you have this anxiety of the approval of your mother when it comes to, I guess, the path that that you were choosing. I think that's interesting because I think a lot of Black families have a similar story. My story is similar as well, where I don't have a struggle story either. I lived a very happy, privileged, middle class life, much more than even Boyce, because Boyce is 12 years my senior. My parents weren't nearly as mature, 12 years, before I was actually born. But my father was a longtime police officer. My mom was a longtime counselor and educator in the city of Louisville. And yeah, they acted, I guess the same growing up because they just didn't know what entrepreneurship could actually bring to a person's life in terms of owning your own business and how much money you could actually make or how much you can actually impact the world and control, your day, your life day in and day out. And I had that same experience too. I was very afraid right after college. I remember I was at a NSBE event, the National Society of Black Engineers, and it was a graduation event from college. And I told them then that I was turning down my good job offers from, Bank of America and GE and those types of organizations to move up to Syracuse to work with Coco, which is, Boyce, but, his nickname in the family is Coco. And we're going to try to grow something big and grow something great. What? But my dad had a similar experience, because a lot of people wanted him to work in the factory at General Electric, doing something with paint and smelling fumes all day. And he said he wasn't going to do it, and that's why he chose a different path for himself. So even though he didn't understand why I was making the decision, he respected my decision as a man, a human being, to actually make it and make my own mistakes as well. So I think we're going to reach a critical consciousness of, like, I guess, Black families. So and this is why the Black Business School exists and the Black Financial Channel exists, is to continue to have those conversations more and more to show people out there that this could be a real path for you and your children as well. So I'm thinking about your story, and one thing that you mentioned while you were telling it is that you always had this vision for your firm, right? In terms of just, women with the slick back hair, that type of thing, just doing what they wanted to do, changing the world. My question is, how has the vision of your firm matched reality, and what has been different since you've been an entrepreneur for the last 9 months?
Um, so my firm actually does match reality. So I have a fully owned and operated firm with Black girl magic all over the place. My finance person is a Black CPA. Her name is Jasmine. My graphic person that does all my website, all my design, her name is Omega. I have a person managing my social media. Her name is Debbie. I have a person that supports me in training. And I have a second HR brain, I call her. Her name is Cora. So there are a number of people. So I did get that, right? And they all look very different, all have different backgrounds, different, just how they show up in life is very different. And I'm proud of that. What I will say is, I did not process, I think, what it meant to lead that group of women, like what that responsibility would look like. And I also didn't realize how much they would also lead me. So I think, in my head, I was just, being Black girl magic, I guess, before it was really called that. I was trying to frame that in my mind. So I do feel like my firm has reached the reality. I think it has challenged me a lot. And I said this at one point, I think in another interview, I feel like the idea of being a leader, though, is something that actually saved my life because it gives you this idea of purpose and longevity, right? And I think sometimes when we see ourselves as these individual even as an individual contributor, you don't necessarily tap into the connectivity with everything else, but it also fostered the idea that this has to work because I have other people who have put their name and their, their credibility and their skill set behind my vision. So I think at the nights when I would go to bed early, it has me up kind of working and thinking differently, investing in myself differently. So that is how it has come to pass. The entrepreneurial journey over the last 9 months. So my business actually was LLC'd and official in 2017. I was one of those people that in my mind, I needed to exactly match my check that they was giving me in order to come over and actually be willing to do this work full time. I decided to go to law school at the end of 2019. It was a thing that I wanted to do for a long time. I actually sat down and said, I'm going to take the LSAT. I'm going to take the exam. If I get in, I'm going to go. And I literally studied for like 3 months. The exam was on my birthday, took it, applied, got in, and was like, oh, this is supposed to happen. So I feel like it laid itself out. But that decision also made me think about the employer I was at the time, where I thought everybody would be excited about me doing this new thing was going to add to my value. They were like, well, that means you got to leave at 5 o'clock. And I was like, oh, yeah, because I got to start school at 6. And so it became, I actually missed out on an opportunity for a promotion because part of the requirement was I needed to be there till 6 and 7 o'clock at night. And so it was just things that came up, but I felt like it was intentionally, almost like I felt like I was being punished for wanting to do better for myself. I also had a number of people asking me, and predominantly white folks asking me, well, why would you go to law school? And my mom was like, why wouldn't I? Like, why wouldn't I take on a journey to embark on this? But that is what actually triggered and prompted my transition into full-time entrepreneurship, because it was just that I can't do this full-time job and this other thing. And so it was almost like, well, my initial mindset was, I just got to make enough to cover bills. So I calculated what everything was, and that was my initial mindset. What I actually realized is that somewhere in the process, once I uncorporatized myself, because I also then spent a number of months after leaving my job still applying for jobs because it just felt foreign not to have a job. The other part is I spent a lot of time figuring out who I wanted to be. And I think that part, for many people who are transitioning out of corporate, walking into entrepreneurial spaces, you literally are trying to figure out who you actually now get to be, because you've spent the last 10, 15, 20 years of your life being who they needed you to be in order to be palatable in those spaces. So I definitely probably spent a couple of months literally just trying to figure out, I know this sounds crazy, like, what color do I want my hair to be? Like little just things around how I wanted to show up. And I spent time in that. And then I actually started moving towards actually, how do I now run this business? And so that journey has been a lot, but I think a lot of it was, I felt like at one point I was literally doing a corporate detox. And it wasn't until I actually was able to do that and then connect with other Black entrepreneurs who were thriving in their businesses in a really, really strong way, that I was able to see this is a real thing, but then also willing to say, I'm going to show up as joy. And whatever that means, and whoever that attracts and whoever that draws, those will be the people that I'm supposed to be working with in this period.
I like that. I like that phrase, the corporate detox, and the deprogramming process of corporate America as well. And I have never spent a day. Well, let me rephrase that. I've never spent a day as a full-time employee in corporate America. So I had 3 internships at Ford Motor Company while I was in college, and I think then I knew that may not be the path for me. And ever since graduating from college, I worked as an entrepreneur, or work with boys in some form or fashion. So that's about 14 years now. And but even still, I was kind of on that same path, and I found myself needing to deprogram myself also, right? So I remember maybe like 4.5 years ago, I was so excited when Google reached out to me, because I was a huge fan of Google. It's one of my favorite companies, and they reached out to me for a product manager position. But once I got there, I was excited to go through the interview process, and I felt like I was validated, because people in my circles were in business school, were business school graduates. I went to Cornell. A lot of my friends went to just the top business schools all around the nation, and that's just kind of what you did in terms of your brain recognition, that type of stuff. And I remember being so excited because I was finally validated with my work as an entrepreneur. And looking back on that situation, I was like, why was I putting so much validation in terms of like getting that specific job with Google? Like, what was it about their brand or them that was supposed to validate me? that, I wasn't doing before in my day-to-day work, running great Black speakers, and then, working with voice day in and day out. So I think we all have like that same challenge, or many of us have that same challenge in terms of deprogramming ourselves to really love what other people love from the general community, or like the broader community, and the broader nation, right? So we put a lot of stock in the Oscars, the Grammys, Google, senator this, professor that at Harvard, or whatever it might be, when I think a lot of us need to have that self-confidence to love what we're doing. And over time, hopefully we can build up our own brands that validate us internally as well. But anyway, your story reminded me a lot of my story, so I kind of just want to share that with the audience. But I'm here with Joy Pittman. Joy is the founder and CEO of JVP Legacy. JVP Legacy is an HR consulting firm that focuses on people and processes. They aim to support Black female entrepreneurs to help them scale their businesses. You can find out more about her and her company at JV as in Victor, P as in Peter, legacy.com. Not Plessy. I guess it could be Plessy too, like I said before, but jvplegacy.com. Make sure that you all like this video, share, and subscribe if you like the conversation that me and Joy are actually having today. And we want to hear your thoughts. So if you have any questions or comments for Joy, please go ahead and post them in the chat as well. Joy, let's get to teams a little bit. So talk about, in businesses, why is it important to first have teams, and I guess second, for leaders to develop the skills necessary to actually manage them?
Okay, so first, have teams. So one of the things that people talk about the most in their businesses is growth. No one wants to build a business to just cycle the same, $2 over and over again. So you're looking to grow, you're looking to scale. The truth of the matter is that most people start a business because they're good at a thing, or they're passionate about a thing, or they have an idea, but no one person can do everything in a business. And so what normally happens is that you can get very much stuck at one place in your business when you've now decided I'm going to be everything. So I'm now going to do my social media, and I'm looking at it from a small business perspective and a startup perspective. I'm going to do my social media. I'm going to do all my marketing. I'm going to also write and craft all of the copy for everything. I'm going to build my own website. I'm going to be my own accountant. At some point, you're doing so many low-level tasks that you don't ever actually get to sit back and look at the business, right? To look at the business and say, what do I need to be doing differently? How am I educating myself on being a business owner? So the idea of running a team essentially really should be that you get enough people in process based on your budget, based on your capacity, based on what you need done, so that you can constantly keep elevating your view so that you can see the larger landscape and continue to build your business, right? If you think about it from building a house perspective, if you constantly only built the house from the foundational level, you're missing a whole lot of what needs to be happening right on other levels. So when you go to build anything, they come and they purview the land, they go deep, they go high, like they look at all these dimensions. And what happens is a lot of times we've got our nose down, right? And we're just getting stuff done and cranking things out. We don't get the opportunity to test. We don't get the opportunity to look at our data. We don't get the opportunity to make pivots on time or make changes and transitions on time because we're just keeping things afloat. And so the idea really is, while you're building your house, sometimes you got to get elevated high enough, far enough back from it to be able to see it. But you also can't be far away from it and operating it at the same time, right? So that's the idea, is to get you an elevated view on what you can do next and how you can elevate yourself in your business. Why is it important for people to learn how to manage people? So I think that for most of us who have been in any situation where we had even an internship on a 9-to-5 job, you've had a bad boss. And so we know what it feels like to have a bad boss, a bad parent, a bad leader, a bad somebody who is navigating us. I think that what we intuitively believe, though, is that leadership is an innate ability that we just have in us. And I'm going to say it is not. Leadership is a skill. So I'm going to say that charisma, whether or not you're charismatic, whether or not people are drawn to you, that may be something that comes from within, but the ability to effectively lead people is something that you actually have to develop and work on, because we tend to lead people only how we want to be led, or to lead people through a very limited scope and vantage point. Why is this important? So in a large organization where you have a full staff recruiting firm that's helping you cycle people in constantly, where you have really, really great salaries, really, really great perks, where people actually are staying for the other stuff, in your business or staying connected to your business for the other stuff. I'm not going to say it's not important, but you're a good manager. You think about the job that you stayed on because of the manager wasn't great, but you had all this 401k, you had this package, you had this longevity. There was something connected to it that you ended up aligning to. When you think about businesses that are in the developmental phase, their ability to do all these things have a slight limit to it, right? And so if you have a bunch of people now pulling on your budget, right? You have this head count that is pulling on your budget, it's an expense, and you can't lead them, you essentially end up risking being either the person that hired a bunch of people to do their jobs for them. So you're still not the CEO of your company, you're still not leading. You have a bunch of disgruntled people that are actually destroying your brand, because you got to remember, when people leave your workspace or they get off that Zoom call and they're talking about your brand, they're literally talking about your brand, right? And people are not differentiating them as an employer versus a person that provides a product or a service. So you have that going on. The other thing is that when we don't challenge ourselves really to be leaders, we miss the opportunity to actually develop other people who can grow in our business. So when you don't intentionally focus yourself on how do I lead, how do I develop, right? How do I mirror behavior, but not do it for them, right? How do I teach them how to do this stuff? You end up with a business that starts growing, and now you're constantly hiring top down. So whenever I walked in an organization, and every time I needed to engage them, they needed to hire at the executive level, there's poor leadership. Because at some point, somebody you've been working with long enough needs to be able to elevate into those roles. Helps you maintain continuity, helps you not to have to keep starting over from scratch, right? Helps you kind of maintain a stable culture if you're able to bring people in and raise them, right, in the organization. And so those are, without going like too far, clearly I can talk about this stuff with a lot of enthusiasm all day. I'm going to pause there, but that's why it's really important to know how to manage people. You need to get the return on that investment. So if you're going to make them, it's like, why buy a car and not learn how to drive? Right? So if you're going to make that investment, and the purpose of the car is to help you be more efficient and get where you need to go quicker and faster, to make the investment in something that has a return and not know how to learn how to use it so you can get that return is a waste.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you in terms of getting the most out of your talent. And before we even get there, though, and go deeper on that particular front, in terms of how do you go about developing your team's talent, let's talk about the decision-making process an entrepreneur needs to go through to figure out who to hire first, second, and third, and so forth. So when you are consulting, your client base regarding this topic, what do you tell them? Like, how should they go about that process of hiring and who to hire?
So the first thing I normally recommend is, what are you horrible at or have no enjoyment in doing, right? Because those are the things that you essentially need to get off your desk first. So if you know you are horrible with the finances, the receipts are everywhere, things are looking crazy, you're not great with social media, you're not a strong writer, you don't know how to do your marketing, things like that, those need to be the things that you get off your desk first, especially if you didn't get like this big infusion of money where you can hire multiple people at the same time. You need to start elevating and getting rid of and away from the things that you really don't have a skill set in or an enjoyment to do. So that would be the first thing. What I also hear a lot of entrepreneurs do is that everybody goes with a VA. I need to hire my VA. That is like the entrepreneur's mantra of, I've now entered into the world of entrepreneurship, my VA. I often tell people, that sounds great, but what does that mean? You know what I mean? It's like this stuff runs the gambit, right? And so I think that ideally, not just thinking about what it is that you want to get off your desk, but actually taking the time to actually track what you do. What are the processes that you're actually working on, right? What are those things that you're trying to get off your desk, and not just throwing them in a title so fast, but actually aligning them with actual steps, so that you're not just saying, I need a VA and grabbing something offline, but you're actually able to look at, if you do use a template, how does this align with what I actually need to get done? And how do I build real alignment and thought between what it is that I need to get done and what they do? The other thing I tell them to do is be realistic about their budget, right? If you can't hire the good of a thing, then maybe don't hire for that thing. Maybe find a workaround that's an outsourced workaround, or see what you can do. But if you can't really hire a good finance person, don't hire a round the way filet finance person that's going to have your stuff messed up, and then you got to figure it out. So then you may have to figure out, well, how do I, how do I think about this differently? So be innovative. I know that we all want to say we have a team. People want to say they have staff. There's something that comes with saying, my assistant, right? We like to say that stuff. But it needs to be real, right? And it needs to actually build efficiency. So, if I had to sum it, first thing is identify what you need to be getting rid of off your desk. Take a moment then to sit with that thing and identify what are the steps. What are you actually doing on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in support of that thing? Then build it into or connect it to what that looks like as a title in the rest of the world, and then be realistic about your numbers, right? And if you can't hire a person, then think about what are the workarounds, be innovative, barter services, right? I've started at one point in my business, I have bartered. Actually right now, one or two of the relationships I have on my team are bartered relationships. So they get to say they have an HR director and I get to say I have what they do, right, on my team, until we both can get to the point where we can actually pay each other an actual salary. But there are ways to work around it.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're speaking truth to power right there, because I, almost had just a flashback of just bad hires and how much money eventually those hires cost us in other types of ways, whether it be, reputational concerns or stuff being jacked up or whatever it is in the business. And, just the process of hiring. I mean, made me put together like a very comprehensive hiring process. So you can never eliminate all the risk, but how much of that risk can you eliminate up front to bring on the most qualified people for that particular job? And I think that's so true. And I think that's so true. Like sometimes we think we're getting stuff on the cheap in terms of the cost, but we don't really look at the value, and then all of the hidden costs and the back end cost stuff. Not, or like getting a half-assed person to, excuse my language, but getting a half-assed person to, do something for you. So, woo, yeah. So I had to just go back in my mind, and it took me to a dark place of a lot of fear and anxiety. But I'm back now. So, yeah. But no, so. We talked about some of those hiring mistakes and, bringing on great talent, that type of thing as well. Can you talk about what it looks like in terms of the development process, in terms of maybe 2 or 3 core things that a CEO can do to increase their leadership ability, or to help develop their team's talent, or to get the most out of them on a day-to-day type of basis?
So the first thing I think every CEO needs to do is identify their strengths, identify their weaknesses, and hire for their weaknesses. I think that we tend to want to hire likeness. People want to duplicate themselves. And if all of us know how to do apples, but we need oranges done, we're going to have a problem if we all focusing on apples. So the first thing is really being honest with yourself about the things that you are no good at, right? And being willing to hire people who can lift you up in those things. The second thing is, and I'm actually going to quote TD Jakes. TD Jakes actually said, I don't hire smart people and tell them what to do. And I heard him say in an interview, he may not have been the one that coined it, but he's the one I heard say it. I hire smart people and let them dictate to me what I need to be doing in my business. And I think the second thing, if we can highlight that, is being the boss doesn't mean that you're the final say or you're always right. It just means that you are the leader. And I think that sometimes we equate leader with know-it-all. Like I have to know everything in order to lead. You don't. You just have to be self-aware enough to know what you don't know, be able to give voice to, right, and harness the things in the people that are around you that can help you move forward, but know how to keep everybody moving and cohesive, right? So I think the first thing would be really, really identifying where you're weak. The second thing would be understanding that you don't have to know everything, and being willing to open up your ears and be led in the areas that you're weak in by the leaders that you've brought on to have that expertise. I think the third thing is really just checking on people and really making sure that people are understanding where you are and you're understanding where they are. I think, sometimes we get so into leading that we forget that people should be following. So like one of my favorite quotes is, a leader without followers is just taking a walk, right? And a lot of us are taking walks, right, throughout our businesses, because we haven't actually paused to look to see where everybody is, right? Leading sometimes means that you don't get there faster, but it means that when you get there, you ain't worn out, right? It means that when you get there, you can stay. And I think some of us are looking for like quick and dirty. And I stress out every time I send a proposal, because I'm like, they're going to tell me they don't have enough time. They're going to tell me this takes too long. But the idea is, being patient with the process and really understanding the same way you look at your business and say, I'm not building a legacy in one day. your team is part of that legacy, and they don't get built in a day either. Right. So this whole thing gets built together. But those are just the three things that I would really say. And I know that for most of us, it's like, oh, well, she didn't tell us, these really technical things. I think that the leadership really taps into your soft skills in a totally different way, and your self-awareness in a totally different way. And so I think working on yourself and being able to see how you show up when you're leading has to be top 3, top 5, like on my list of things that leaders need to do.
Wonderful, wonderful. So that's great advice, Joy. Thanks for sharing it with the Black Financial Channel. As a reminder, everyone, I'm here today with Joy Pittman. Joy is the founder and CEO of JVP Legacy. JVP Legacy is an HR consulting firm that focuses on people and processes. They aim to support Black female entrepreneurs and to help them scale their businesses. You can find out more about her at jvplegacy.com. That's jvplegacy.com. I put the link in the chat for anyone who wants to check her out. And today we're talking about how she helps Black entrepreneurs to scale their businesses through the use and the growth of teams. So please make sure that you like this video, share, and subscribe to the Black Financial Channel if you would like to receive more financial content like what we're producing here today with Joy. So Joy, in this last segment, first, can you tell the people, how they can get in touch with you? Like, where are you on social media? What's the best way if they want to use your services? Just give your quick pitch in regards to JVP Legacy.
Got you. So JVP Legacy, he's already said most of the good stuff. If you want to find us, we are at JVP Legacy everywhere. So that's LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We are at JVP Legacy. Really, in all honesty, if you want to contact us, our website is the best way to do so. We have a client intake form. We're going to ask you questions. We're going to set some baselines. We're going to make sure that you're ready to make the investment. And so we're really clear on our intake form. And you fill that out. We schedule a call. Most of what we do is custom because we need to know what your business needs specifically. So we have templates, but we don't do template services, right? So we don't just kind of copy paste and give everybody the same thing. We want to sit with you and really understand what your pain points are and make sure that we can support you and we're the best to do it. So you can reach out to us on our website. There's a button on the first page that just says schedule a call or contact us. You can click there, fill out the form, and we would love to have a conversation with you.
All right, so to close out our interviews, Joy, we've been doing something new. We've been asking 5 rapid fire questions to our guests. And so just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind with these 5 questions. You ready? All right, number 1, what is your favorite business book of all time?
New favorite business book that I just started reading was Fix This Next. This book is blessing my whole life. Because
what is it called?
Fix This Next. So it really is helping you align, zero in on what you need to be working on right now. And so it really helps you streamline and get away from all the other stuff, because we like to touch everything. I'm like a fish to shiny things. So if something pops up, I'm the person with the email and then the pop-up and something else taking me over there. It's actually helped me. Literally in the last month, I've been looking at this book, really streamline what are the actual things that are going to be change drivers, right, in my business, so that I can focus on those and then build out from them.
Okay. And who do you know the author of that book by any chance?
I don't. It's part of the book that they sent us for the mastermind. Is literally I've fallen in love with it. Okay. I can pick it up real quick.
Yeah, that's what you said. Fix it next, though. Fixing next.
This next.
Oh, fix this next. Okay, got it. So fix this next. All right, let me write that in the chat for everybody. All right, so that's the first thing. All right, second question.
Yeah, I'm not doing too much.
There it is.
Mike McCallowitz. Yeah, I'm
Mike McCallowitz's next book. Okay, got it. So he wrote quite a few different books. Profit First System.
I read that one. I read the other ones. This one actually, I wish I read this one first because it really just helps you frame. It gets you out of your head and gets you from running crazy in your own head and kind of helps you hone in on what you need to be focused on.
All right. So question number 2: are there any entrepreneurs, business leaders, or companies that you are following that you would like your company to emulate?
Rachel Rogers right now is my I love her. She doesn't know me, but I love her. So I'm like low key stalking the world. She actually is the person that I've honed in on the most right now. I also though have like a lot of respect. I gotta mention Lamar Tyler. Literally the last couple months, in last actually month and a half of really working with them, has revolutionized how I see business and what I see happening in business. But if I had to say like who I want to be in my business when I grow up, it would have to be Rachel Rogers.
Okay, so Rachel Rogers, who was a former attorney, but has become a business coach, mainly helping Black women or women in general, I think, to really get their business off the ground. So check out Rachel Rogers also. The third question I have for you is, who is your favorite historical figure from Black history?
Favorite historical figure from Black history. So I'm a fan of Audrey Lord. I quote her pretty often. So she's somebody who I think has really been courageous in sitting in all parts of her identity and calling it out, and not being willing to shrink it. So I think that for me is the thing that connects, and why I'm enamored with her.
Okay. That's the first time I heard that one, so that's great. So Audrey Lorde, yeah, no one has mentioned her before, so you are the first. Number four, how many hours of sleep do you get at night?
Ooh, my lord. Varies. Last night I got about 5. Yeah, so I'm trying to push towards 7, but life of an entrepreneur slash law student means that you are working all day. So it's about 5 to 6 hours of sleep on
Five
average.
to 6 hours. Okay, well, hopefully it's only temporary. All right, so yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. My last question. So you are 38 years old now, as you said earlier in the interview.
Mhm.
What would you go back and tell your 20-year-old self in terms of advice?
Um, I would tell myself actually to slow down and speed up. And I know that sounds crazy. There were some things that I was rushing towards, that I did not need to be rushing towards. And then there were some things that I thought I had a lot of time on. Relationship actually, and not without being too emotional. My dad and my sister died a year apart. There were things in those relationships. You think you got time with people forever. So I would have sped up, I guess, my interactions. I would have spent more time with them. I would have, me and my sister's relationship was rocky. I would have forgiven quicker, faster to do those things. So I would have told myself to slow down and speed up. The other thing I would have said is that it works out. I went through my 20s. It was very stressed about what life was going to look like. And I was in my 20s when my dad and sister passed. So there was a lot kind of going on around, I guess, how I was just going to manage and navigate the rest of my life when I fall apart. I would tell her it's going to be okay. It's a process. It's going to make you better, but you're going to be all right.
Wonderful. Joy, thank you so much for being on the Black Financial Channel today. As a reminder, everyone, I've been here with Joy Pittman. Joy is the founder and CEO of JVP Legacy. It is an HR consulting firm that focuses on people and processes. They aim to support mainly Black female entrepreneurs and to help them scale their businesses. You can find out more about her company at JV as in Victor, P as in Peter, legacy.com. That's jvplegacy.com. And we today have been talking about how she helps other business owners actually scale. So before you get out of here, if you like this video, please go ahead and press the thumbs up button, show us some love so that Google's algorithm will show us some love as well. Please make sure that you share this interview and also subscribe to the Black Financial Channel if you'd like to receive more financial content like what we've been producing here today with Joy. Also, I would like to thank our corporate sponsor, the Black Business School. So at the Black Business School, we don't just help you climb the corporate ladder, we help you build your own as well. What we do is help African Americans to obtain a culturally relevant yet practical education in all things wealth building at an affordable price. So we focus on 3 main things. Well, actually, before that, 3 main reasons why people come to us. The first is they want additional freedom in their life to take a nap in the middle of the day, like me and Boyce like to do, to travel, or even to spend time with their kids, so to control their own day. The second thing that they reason why people come to us is they want to leave a financial legacy to their families and their community. And then the third reason is they want to have stability and security going into their golden ages of retirement years. And we help them by focusing on our three pillars of wealth, which are stock market investing, real estate investing, and also entrepreneurship. We're actually adding very strongly a personal finance component to that in terms of wealth building, estate planning, because it's not just enough to create wealth. You need to learn how to capture it and also sustain it over generations as well. So please head over to theblackbusinessschool.com. That is theblackbusinessschool.com to learn more. So on behalf of Joy Pittman, my name is Lawrence Watkins. I will actually be back with you all in about 10 to 15 minutes or so. I have another interview right after this with Mr. Freddie Taylor of Urban Intellectuals. So make sure you check that out as well. So on behalf of Joy Pittman, my name is Lawrence Watkins. You all take care, be blessed, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.